Howdy, folks. Welcome back once again to that dadgum Lawrence Jameson Warhammer show. Another live version. And today is going to be a live build of one of the newest terrain pieces, or the newest terrain piece from Games Workshop, the Gloomtide Shipwreck. Now this goes along with a new army they done released very recently, called the Idoneth Deeepkin, and it's a race of Fishelves. They come up on land with their sea creatures in hand, of course, and fight in battles against the other armies in the Age of Sigmar. So, even though I'm not going full with Idoneth Deeepkin, this model is such a value, and so it looks so good. I'm either going to paint it up and give it away to a friend of mine that's playing Idoneth Deeepkins, or I just may keep it for old scenery pieces on my table. I'm not planning on painting it up white. I'm going to do it in a darker brown, more like wood that ain't turned white. Scheme. I'm going to do that in another video. I may do that. I'm going to do, of course, sketch painting to be real quick. Now, one thing I wanted to say about this model right here, and another thing that made me want to get it, was how daggum cheap it was. $40. I don't know how many pounds that is over there in bloody old England, but that's pretty cheap. You know, that's just above the trees that I gotta have. Of course, I done got 3 of these trees for Nurgle. And it all started with the Sylvaneth when they had terrain pieces that go in with their army, and now Nurgle's got them, and now this Deepkin has them, and I think you're going to see a whole lot more of specialized terrains coming out that buff and do certain things on the tabletop. Now, I'm not going to go into what this does on the tabletop. I believe it's real similar to my Nurgle trees, where it heals, where I think it heals and protects Idoneth Deeepkin that's near to it, and it'll wound or be harmful to with mortal wounds and such not against enemy units that's near to it. No, I don't think it gives movement buffs and all like my trees do. But I was going to want to show y'all what all is in the box and what you get for $40, and try to take a look at it and get it thrown together so you can see how big it is, just how large it is in hand, and to show you how it's such a value compared to something like this. This is a little model I had to pay $35 for, and it's a Dark Oath War Queen. And if I wanted to be involved with all the malign portent shenanigans, I had to select one of these Harbingers from my faction or my allegiance, and of course a chaos with Nurgle. So I had to get this woman here, $35. I'm going to tell you right now, it's a $20 model, if that. But they're going to give you these for $40. Now, some people might say, well, it's because it's a specialized and they're only going to need, well, every Deepkin player is going to need, I think the most amount you can have is 2 of them. So Deepkin players is going to want 2 of them. So why didn't they price this at like $100? You're going to see how much plastic's in here. There's 60, 70, 80. I don't know. I can't put prices on these things because who knows how Games Workshop is making up these prices about how much a little bit of plastic costs versus this. And you can say, well, it's, exclusivity and this and this and that. I think what you're going to find out is these ones here is made in China. Just like the daggum Warscry Citadel, just like all the terrain pieces, they're made in China, and so they can get them a lot cheaper. You're getting a whole heck of a lot more plastic. Heck, them daggum Azurite runes. This set that I got for Age of Sigmar terrain pieces for $30, I believe it was. You get just a ton terrain. I couldn't believe how heavy the box and all was, and that's about the same thing with this in here. Another thing that's been turning me on toward a fish and wanting to even do this thing right here. I've been watching a lot of that, The Terror, on TV. It's a daggone series about these two British ships that went up in the Arctic and got lost in the mid 1800s. And none of one of the 130 or so folks that went initially never come back. And that's a real history. But they based the whole show on it, of course, and put a damn demon polar bear and an Eskimo witch and such not in it, man, to just to spice it up a little bit. But you know, all the acting in it is all British, of course. And so it's all authentic. And I mean, because ain't nobody do swords and sorcery and daggone pirates and sailing vessels and that kind of stuff. Ain't nobody does that better than the British, man. You can see that from Game of Thrones and things like that. Man, ain't nobody do that stuff better. Just like ain't nobody gonna do better on cowboys and Indians than us, man. I mean, we got cowboys and Indians and space astronauts and shit and stuff like that is what we're gonna do good. But anyway, I'm gonna put together this and tell y'all about the mold lines and how good it goes together. I skimmed through the instructions just a little bit. It looks like it's real easy. It looks like it's real quick. So without further ado, I'm going to get the camera rolled around and put down onto my desk here. Just give me a second. All right, I believe Mike can see from there. Roll this around a little bit better. I've been painting up a storm down here on these nurgles. So my whole desk is set up to paint and not to build, but I'm gonna go ahead and build because I want to slap this together, and I wanted all y'all out there to be able to see it. Number one, because it's new, you know, and I believe it's real big and good value. So here we go. Big old box. Now, tools I'm going to be using, let me tell you real quick. I got some flush cut nippers. And on one side of here, on one side it cuts flush, and one side it cuts a bevel. So these are essential nowadays with this super hard plastic. I never used them until just a few years ago, but I had to go to them. I'm using a number 2 X-Acto knife. I like number 2 a little bit better because it's just a little bit bigger in my hand. You know, it don't feel as flimsy as number 1s. I will use number 1s for certain things, but not this. Of course, I'm going to use Gorilla Super Glue. And, you know, why don't you use plastic? Well, I'm not using plastic glue because I'm a super glue user. You know, if there comes to a point in this model where I got to have the plastic glue, I'll put it together. But super glue really don't fail me. I've been using it a long time. This is really, in my opinion, the best super glue they got going nowadays. Number 1, because it's got a nice metal thing up inside, deep down in the cap down in there that punctures through there. This top seems to stay fairly clear. As I say that, it's crusted over, but it cleans off really easy. And I really have never had a problem with these clogging at all until you get down near the very bottom of the bottle and all. And they're only about $5. So this Gorilla Super Glue is what I'm going to be using for the assembly. Of course, I got a toothpick that I can rake up a little bit of super glue off to put on some tiny delicate areas. I don't know that there's going to be any of them most of the time. I'm just going to go straight from the old bottle here. And I got me a little thing just so I don't put a tongue depressor. Just so I don't put super glue right down onto my table and mess up my little table too bad. So, first of all, bust it open. Take a look at the instructions. You know, it's a fairly big book. Now, here you go. This is a lot of plastic, folks. For the money, for $40, look at the keel of that daggone ship, how big that sucker is. These are the back parts of it and all. And I've been watching that daggone tear, and I don't know the exact names of these decks and all, but and there's the bases. So you get 4 big sprues full of ship parts, and of course some little fish and marine life and stuff if you wanted to put on there. I don't think I'll be putting, and there's no duplicate sprues, of course. And I don't think I'll be putting much of that marine life on mine, because mine, I want it to look similar to like it washed up on a beach. Now I see there's some marine life as I look closer that's connected up to the hull. And I'm gonna just think on that for a while if I wanted to grind that off or not. Don't know what I want to do with that yet. Anyway, it seems to have been a Sigmar ship, because you got a lot of Sigmar, the twin tail comet, of course, up here on the bow behind this fella, and I'm sure there's twin tail comet icons all down it. So it was a Sigmar ship. So I'm going to go ahead and get ripping on it. Let's pull it out. Now, a lot of times in a Games Workshop, you could just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and put 1 together with 2 and 2 together with 3. Well, I don't believe this one's like that. I believe the first pieces you need to get out is number 3 and then number 22. So let's start looking around for number 3. Put them down there. What it looks like is the front part. That ain't it. Oh man, I'm not a sailor. I'm not even being able yet to figure out which end I'm looking at. So it looks like I'm lining it up like there. Oh, all right, that's it. So I need to cut out number 3, which is this big, gigantic hull piece. Now, on first glance, of course, this has got to be a brand new kit. It's not like a re-release like the Warscry Citadel was. This is a brand new design piece off of computers and such. So we're going to see about the mold lines, see if they hit them any. This seems, at first cut, it seems like that same heavy duty plastic that you're getting from China. It's got that, it's got that heavy weight to it. Now, on first glance, I'm just going to look down it to see some bad mold lines. Where did they even put the mold lines? It's looking pretty good. All right, I done found it. The mold lines run right down the top edge of it. So I'm going to go ahead and clip all the little pieces off of it. Clean the mold lines real quick. Because it doesn't look like it's going to be something huge. Those Azurite runes, even though they are a brand new terrain piece and was designed recently and all, they was fairly hell on the mold lines. And it took me a while to get over them mold lines. And it was a fair amount of pieces. You feel lucky that you got so much in the package. But then about an hour in the mold line scraping, you start thinking, man, I almost wish they didn't give me this much in here. But they turned out good. Like I said, here's the mold line right here. It's running right down through the top of these timbers, right on the edge of that top deck of the ship. All right. All right, cut these little pieces off. Now, I like to use a blade that's not brand new when I'm doing this type of work right here. Because as you see, a lot of times I'm running the blade sideways to scrape mold lines. And I'm also cutting back towards my thumb. And that ain't why I got a Band-Aid on this thumb. But I want a sharp enough blade that's gonna cut through the plastic. But at the same time, it ain't really want to cut through my hand like I don't want a razor sharp is what I'm trying to say. And because I'm dragging it sideways, even a new one, you can fairly dull it up pretty quick if all you had was a brand new blade for this type of work. For brand new blade, I like to use them for when I'm cutting out stock material and stuff. It's got to be totally straight, like out of foam. If you ever cutting in foam, that's when you want to have them brand new blades. Because when a blade's dull and you're trying to cut through foam, it starts to drag. You need to drag the foam and make a fair mess. Now here's some more mold lines that I done discovered. Down each one of these ribs. Down the side of these ribs, there's a pretty fair one. Alright, China, we done found your mold lines. Because it looks like it's on every rib. Yep. And I bet you it's on the other side too. Yep. So, bad news, folks. It's daggone mold line city out here. And these ribs, you can hear me scraping on them. They're coming off pretty easy. It's not thick and hard to get off mold lines. It's just it's a fair amount of them now. All right, I'm getting to it. It's not that bad, not that time consuming because they are coming off easy. They ain't thick. Got to cut out them spots. We have them little spanners. And heck, if your knife wasn't dull to start with, you dull it up a little bit on these sideways mold. Every one of them dang ribs, front and back, is mold line city. Now some people might not care about it. Some people might be what folks we might say anal retentive about it, obsessing about it. I'm falling in the middle. You know, to me, I almost could leave them and just ride on and paint it on up and all. As you see on some of my models, I leave gaps. I'm not fanatical about putting green stuff and filling all the gaps and getting every single mold line spinning. You know, I'm wanting to do more models. I'm not painting these up for Golden Demon. I'm wanting good to look good on the tabletop, and I want them out there, you know, as quick so I can be on to the next thing, because there ain't nobody in this hobby here fooling with this that ain't got a backlog, that ain't running a backlog from hell right now, whether it be 40K or Age of Sigmar or painting that stuff. Your eyes is always bigger than your paintbrush. So I'm looking now for number 22. And that's going to be a lot of the longest. Of course, on these, I'm going to have to scrape mold lines on ribs, but they won't be too dang bad. So number 22 is this little curvy piece right in here. Now, I usually cut with the flat side out when I'm first cutting them out, so I don't get a bunch of push. Because if you cut with the flat side up against the part while you're inside the sprue, these aren't cutting in a straight line. They push away from the bevel. And delicate parts, you can deform badly if you don't watch what you're doing, cutting right up against them with a flat side of a flush cut nipper, because you'll push the plastic and it ain't got nowhere to go. Now, once it gets off of the sprue, that is the side that you want to use up against the plastic is the flat spot, because the excess waste now has somewhere to go. But when you're in the sprue, it don't have nowhere to go. It presses these up against the plastic and you deform. All right. So according to these daggum instructions, looks like I got to continue this span up here some kind of way. Lord have mercy. No and no. And no. I gotta turn it around. That's what's the problem. That little square piece is gonna fit in there. And it just finishes off the keels. Why are they making you do this? I don't know. So you can say you built it, that little piece? I don't know. Why they just didn't mold that on in. There we go. Alright, that's in. Now we're going down to 21. It's got piece number 21's got to fit into number 2. The number 2, I reckon, is the other half of that front side bow of the ship. I do know that much because I've been watching the Terror on AMC. And it's a show about them 2 ships that went out and got lost. They throwed some supernatural in to spice up the storytelling, but it made me so interested in it. I actually went back and Googled a bunch of videos and whatnot and found out a bunch of documentaries on the real thing about the Franklin expedition in 1854 to go try to find the Northwest Passage up in northern Canada, across through there at the height of the daggone Victorian England. And went back and researched what really happened to them, because nowadays they found 2 of the ships. They found both ships I'm talking about. They found the Erebus and the Terror in 2014, 2016, I believe, respectively. But they found both them ships already, and they found a lot of the graves. And what they really did find out was this: for a long time, of course, the only people that saw those people after they left the temperate type waters was a couple of whalers, and then that was it. And then the only humans that saw them for the next few years as they trying to stay alive and get back was Eskimos, Inuit people. Now, the Inuit people didn't have no written language. All they had was word of mouth for their history. Now, when all you got's word of mouth for your history, and it needs to be accurate, and you don't really put embellishments and things like that. You just tell the daggone straight up truth, because you have to, because that is your history. You can't add stuff to it and take stuff away. Well, Eskimos have been telling rescuers and people like that, what had happened to these people, about all the cannibalism that had went on, and the different things and whatnot. And come find out, man, almost everything they said was true. And did none of them fellers make it back to England? And all of them died on the way. There's a lot of factors factored into it too, not just the ice and the cold and the isolation of how far away they was from everybody, but down there in the middle of the 1800s, there was a new canning process to can food, and they was one of, considered themselves, it was one of the, these 2 ships are the most technologically advanced ships in the world when they went up there. So there wasn't even no rescue plans put out to try to get them. They had took the newest of the new provisions, which was them tin cans. Well, the canning process had been given to like the lowest bidder, who had got some kind of new process with lead sealing around the inside. It was done really sloppily and all, and lead was all in the foods. So when the bodies of some of these fellas was finally dug up, and science got to them, and DNA testing and all and whatnot, of course they're very, very well preserved from being up there in the permafrost. Well, they found out there was so much lead in these fellas, 100 times the normal level of lead. And I mean, sailors just didn't usually get that off of the daggone lead water tanks and stuff like that. Well, then they started finding these cans, of course, that they had tins that they had eaten from. And started finding out that the daggone solder, the lead solder, had leaked all into the cans. Any type of acidic foods and such had just dissolved the lead into them. And all these fellers had eat lots of lead for a long time, for several years while he was out there. Well, that lead poisoning not only made them sick and made them weak and susceptible to things like pneumonias and tuberculosis and consumptions and things, but it not only made them weak and all like that, it made them so crazy, crazier than daggone shit house rats. And they turned on each other, of course. Well, who's to know? Of course, they think they did. Well, and they just started. They were going nuts though, and some of the things they found, like a set of them had done drug a boat, because that's how when they finally left the ships, it was got ice locked up there. When they finally left them and tried to walk south, they were dragging boats, that little lifeboats and stuff they had set up on sleds. Well, these boats weighed like 1,400 pounds. They're trying to drag them through the ice and snow and the gravel and things like that, trying to drag them through. Well, when they finally found these boats, man, not long ago and all, they found, of course, everything's perfectly preserved, like I was saying. They found that these fellas had loaded up just some of the most useless items and things, silverwares and books and curtain rods and drug them hundreds of miles. And there's been some documentaries done to where they took Royal Canadian Mounted fellers and hooked up some dang sled boats like these Franklin expedition people was supposed to have been dragging, and had them drag them in, and they couldn't get about 4 miles a day, and it exhausted the hell out of them. And they was fully fit Canadian Mounties and all. Imagine these old weak people full of scurvy and all. How far you reckon they's dragging a boat a day? And to get hundreds, 200 miles, pulling daggum curtain rods and such. Anyway, they found many instances of cannibalism, where these people was eating, lots of skeletons where the meat had been drug off the bones of them. And well, by cut off the bones, I mean by knives and such. And one thing they did find in one of the so-called death camps, the starvation camps, where they think some, groups of the last people just couldn't go on no more, and they died a bunch of them in one spot. Well, they found these daggone knife with the word hickey carved in the side of it. Now, hickey, once they started researching on that, because, they kept, everything was kept meticulous records up until, these people were lost, you see. Well, hickey was a caulker's mate on board the Terror, which is one of the ships, Terror and the Erebus. He was a caulker's mate from Limerick, Ireland, 24 years old when it started. Anyway, that's all they really know about him, except for this knife they found of it. And it's a knife with an ivory handle with his name carved into it and his initials on the other side for Cornelius Hickey. Well, anyway, the daggum show turned him to a villain, turned him into a daggum homosexual villain who killed somebody and took his identity to get on the ship. And I don't want to do too much spoilers, but he turns into just the craziest villain in the whole flipping thing, whole story and all. And come to find out, in real life, the knife, they kept on examining on the knife, and I done put 21 to number 2. Well, the knife they found, they kept calling it a boat knife, but it wasn't really a boat knife. What it ended up being was one of the surgeons. There was 4 surgeons or doctors or such on these 2 boats. One of the surgeons' equipment, because it still had the maker's marks and all on it, it was one of their scaffold knives that had been rehandled and reshaped and all. And Hickey, I guess, had done that. And so the creators of this show done turned Hickey into a ringleader of a cannibal gang and just a horrible. It's a great show, man. Just really great. I really think it was really done top notch. And a lot of the things that I started researching on the historical side, I didn't really catch until I went and watched series again. And a lot of little things that they do about when, a fella's writing something and he forgets this or that, they tell in real life why, when they did find a couple messages from these fellas telling about how Sir John Franklin had died on June 11th of 1857, 56, I believe, 57. And how they were going to try to walk out of there and such, but that's the last they never ever heard of none of them. So anyway, I highly recommend that thing. So now over to here. I don't know who they let build these instructions and all, but it looks like you need to put some type of deck up into here, and it's showing it on type of a slant coming down off of the front side of it. Looks like this piece here. So I need to find piece number 4, which is in deck. And I believe it's going to be this 8-up looking deck, back deck, front deck thing up here. Poop deck. There we go. Now, I'm short on Sigmar terrain like a lot of people are. But the good thing about Sigmar terrain is you need less of it than you need for 40K. As you see, 40K, that's a game of firepower and angles and range, and that's 40K's bread and butter. Now, Sigmar is a game of maneuver, like the old Napoleonics. It's a game of maneuver, and so you gotta have to maneuver big blocks of infantry, which we're not moving them in blocks per se like the old days, but the moving them in them thing big groups like we do, and the synergies it's got to come off of the leaders and whatnot. It's just a little bit different. It's a game of maneuver and placement of your troops, and of course piling is very important. You got whole armies, mine included, the Nurgles that don't hardly shoot at all. You got armies like this Deepkin that seem like they're almost anti-shooting. They don't shoot themselves too much, I don't think, but they debuff shooting armies that some people were saying was starting to take over the meta, like Caradran overlords, because they're so shooty and all. Now I'm going to tell you this. I went to a tournament. I was in a Sigmar tournament a couple weeks ago, and I come against a daggone free guild, free people's army, and I kind of overlooked it a little bit. I looked down on it a little bit, not just because he didn't have the daggone thing painted, and I found out how old I am when he started talking about it was his dad's army. Anyway, I'm in this tournament against this dang thing, and he's got, of course, big blocks of 30 handgunners, all buffed out and such. And they're overwatching. I hit up against that thing, and man, he just melted Blight Kings and everything. It was bad sailing for me, man. It was a bad day, and I lost that game pretty handily to a bunch of free guild guys who, when I slammed into them, they just shot me to pieces. Not only on that Overwatch, he had different other such buffers that it was allowing him on his turns of shooting to blast me. So I mean, I was just catching a lot of dang shots, and it ended up winning the game for him. Of course, I couldn't roll a daggum 1 to save my life. I mean, a 6 or anything to save my life. All the rolling was daggum 1s. All right, I'm seeing where I'm putting the super glue down. Yeah, got my spots. Man, the Games Workshop lately, of course, and I already can tell from this one, this way more better designed than even though I'm complaining about all these mold lines and whatnot. It's way more better designed than, say, the Warscry Citadel, which was an old terrain piece that wasn't put together, I don't believe, by computers and whatnot. These are ones that's designed and all, man. I can already tell the fit of this is pretty daggone good. Watch me jinx it. I'm going to jinx it. Watch me jinx it. All right, I got that in. I got it at the right angle. It took a whole daggone page over to here. It says you want to slap them 2 big ones together. The 2 big pieces that we've been working on together. Now I'm going to dry fit it. This is called dry fitting, where you put things together without the glue first. You know something, man? My daggum super glue ain't dried from a piece up there. So I want to sit here and hold it, and I'm going to run my gums some more about it. Now look, I want to talk about a little bit about this planks that goes on. You got the ribs here on the ship, and then you got these hull planks. Now, when I was listening and looking around about that daggum Terror and Erebus, they had originally been built with 3-inch thick oak planks as these sides. 3-inch oak, English oak. They had added 3 more inches. This is on the inside before they left. On the inside, they had added 3 more inches of African mahogany and a whole nother inch of Canadian maple, I believe, all up on the inside. It had 10 inches when it was all said and done, I believe, thick hulls on these ships. Of course, they was, the equivalent of icebreakers. They had to break ice. It was all reinforced up in the front with iron and whatnot. But they had made these hulls of these ships so daggum thick. I just can't imagine. I'm a carpenter. I can't imagine working with 3-inch thick oak and trying to bend it around. I would have loved to go through one of them shipyards back in the day, just being a little nurgle flying around. All right, I'm gonna dry fit it now. I believe I've held it long enough to get it to stick here, and see which ones of these is actually gonna touch, where it's gonna touch, how it's gonna touch, how I got myself jinxed out on its good fit and all. It don't feel good right yet. All right, here we go. Ooh, it snapped together pretty good, folks. Pretty good. These back ones ain't gonna touch. It's like all I want to glue is it from there up. It snapped pretty good together. I'm talking too much about this stuff holding together. Now, I'm gonna glue up the whole thing at one time. That'll hold together. Get some super glue up in there. Being careful not to put too much, but being careful to put some in the right spots. Now, you get a little messy on the very inside, don't matter. And by the way that thing snapped together, I don't need a whole mess of super glue. Anyway, it snapped together really nice, tight fit. All right, here we go. We're gonna do it again. I had a little trouble wanting it to go together, but when it snapped, man, boy, it snapped. Woo, there it went. When it snapped in, it snapped in. And ain't no rubber bands and nothing required, I don't think, for this. So, get the back or the front part of this ship going right here. All right, let's continue on. It says to mount that sucker to the base. Base number 1. So base number 1 is going to be down here. And you know something, man? These daggum treasure chests that come with the Azurite runes is going to go right in with these daggum pirate ships. Now, I ain't going to want 2 of them and all, but I'm already liking these ships. Okay, number 1, I reckon, is the big one right here. I'm going to cut it out. Again, like I said, I keep the flat, when I first start, I keep the flat spot away from the piece. Because if I turn the flat spot up against the piece, it pushes in. It'll push this metal, and the plastic's going to give before these metal cutters is going to give every day on time. So I just a lot of times overcut. See how I'm overcutting all the way to the outside? Way on the outside, I overcut because these snips, they'll do it. Then you come back with the flat spot, nip it off. Nip it off. Putting the flat spot up against it. Now you are, and nipping it off. And that's a trick I learned from screwing up my models by doing it the other way and not figuring out what in the world, why have I got all these marks all over these models from where I cut it out? Why is it doing this? Why is it doing it? So I finally found it out. I started doing it the other way. Doing a little scrapage. I don't see the mold line. Looks like it's right down the daggum middle of that cross, which means it's right in the crack. So we're looking good on mold line for the base. Very nice. Very, very nice. All right. I like it. These have a built-in base. Now, looks like the bow part of it goes up towards the part that's swooping up in the air. So I'm going to dry fit it one time. looks like it slides right down into there. And it looks like another one of these snappers. It's just gonna snap. Look, it holds it. It holds it right there with no glue. So, but I'm gonna put glue, of course. Here we go. Run a little line, cross. Might have been better to glue the bottom of the things. I'm having a little bit of trouble getting down all the way down in there, but I'm able to do it. So it looks like that is the front connection right here that I need to get some glue on. That looks like, yeah, I'm going to get a little bit on that side, and just don't forget the very end tips there. That's going to give you a lot more strength when suckers start banging around on and throwing dice all over them. All right, this snaps right in. I'm going to lay it down. I'm going to hold it down here for just a minute while I start looking at the other parts of the instructions for the next go round. So it looks like I need to cut out the face part of that. You know, I don't know what they call these things. A lot of times it's a woman up there. I don't know why you don't want to put a woman up there. They got Sigmar or something that looks like Sigmar up in there. So Sigmar is number 19 for his face. So we find it over here on this sprue. Overcut it so as not to mar it. Come back. Snip it off clean. Take the old razor knife. Chop off where the flash connected. Chop off the other spot where the flash connected. Being very careful. Take off the flash and the mold lines. If you're into that thing, sort of thing, the mold line removal. Now I've never tried their mold line remover tool or anything like that. I've always used just the daggone. They had knives way before that. Now, how's that go in there? Once again, they got these things fitting tighter than a daggone crab's ass. And that's a good thing for all of us. There it goes. Alright, got Sigmar's face on there. Now it's talking about Sigmar's arms. 5 and 6 here. We'll whack him out of there. Working my way around. As I spin the piece, that way I don't have to readjust which angle I'm about my daggum cutters at. I just flip that thing around till I'm on, stay on the outside. Come back, snip on his arms. Come back with the old cutters. Oop, missed that one. Scraping. I already feel a little bit of weak point on his hammer. And just from holding it in my hand, I feel maybe not today, but one day, maybe having to put a daggone rod in there, put a helper in there, so it don't break off. Or when it does break off, I think I'm just gonna let it go till it breaks off. It's a little stronger than I first mentioned. Blowing off a lot of that flash. There's a pretty heavy mold line on the underside of his left arm there. Pretty fair mold line there. Pretty fair mold line going around the hammer too. Diagonal to strength. Alright, let's check that right hand. Same thing with the right hand. It's going right over the top of the mold line, right over his bicep. So you're going to have to get that off, or it is going to look kind of strange. It's a fair size mold line tool on this, and I got flipped over, a little bit of less, but it's running steady, running up his tricep and all. Alright, now we slap them on there. Let's just dry fit just a little bit. Looks like it can only go in one direction. A little bit of glue. He's on there. Looks like that is going to go up on top of it. A little touch of glue on the end of that hammer there. Oh, I'm getting already more excited about this. The more I put it together, I love it more and more. The size of it. I mean, this is just half of it. Oh, yeah. All right, got Sigmar together. That's beauty of super glue. All right. Check, check, check. They just give you some very detailed instructions, man, showing you these. That little sequence of putting 2 arms on took up a whole daggone page right here. So they are showing you a lot. So over to here, it's saying I need to put plank 24 up on side of that one that I done. And like I said, they're using a whole page just to show you that. And quickly find plank number 24 is this bottom one. I'm gonna nip it out once again, like I said, keeping the flat part away. Helps you to not squeeze the piece till you get it out. Keeping the flat part of your nippers away. Then on piece 24, nip them daggum ends off. This time with the flat part against it, because them pieces got places to go now. Come back with a knife. Take off the spots where it was connected. Sideways slide to take off that mold line. It's not too pronounced on this piece here. Not too bad. But there is one there, and it's run right down tops of the boards. I told you I was going to give you a mold line report. I'm doing it. But I'm fairly pleased so far, and I'm very pleased with the fit of this model so far. You can tell that this one fits together very well and is a newly designed model. All right, so I run it over to the side. I'm going to dry fit it real quick. Look at my instructions. And they just got everything tabbed up so good now that you almost don't need glue, but you just almost can't get it in the wrong position is what I meant to say. Because it won't let you. Like this piece here, tabs right in there. I'm gonna hold it for just a few seconds. It's gonna be a done deal. Yeah, man, I think I'm gonna name this in here the Terror. I'm gonna name this ship here the Terror. Ooh, I done found some pieces. You gotta make sure you get all these little tabs, these little spanners, these connectors that they put in there. It ain't part of the model. I missed a couple right there. High in the middle. Spin around while that's drying. That little piece I put on the side is drying. Try to find any more of them. Of course, I'll have a little bit of time where I'll go over the model right after I finish assembling the whole thing, before I put the primer to do things like this, to get little spots, finish off little mold lines that I'm seeing. All right, that's it. Done deal. None 24s on there. We're going to the next part. Now we're putting a mast on it. That mast they're saying is part number 7. Big old mast. Ahoy, matey! Oh man, these masts. That whole era of sailing ships and all, man. That was some of the hardest men ever, I think, to deal with them kind of conditions. It's just not just hard in physical, but you had to be mentally hard to go out on them voyages. Imagine what it took to go out on a, not even just a regular voyage. Think about the suckers that was going out there with Sir John Franklin on the Franklin expedition I've been talking about. Think about them. I mean, That's daggum courage right there. You know, of the unknown. That's just like signing up right now to go onto a flight to daggum Mars or further. Or what if we didn't even know? And that's just, man, that's courage right there. And those suckers, man, and not to just do that. Now we're going to go up to the Arctic where it's cold. Boy, I hate cold too. I hate cold. I spent a long time in the desert, over there in the Arabian desert. All right, and during the wars, of course, the recent wars in Mesopotamia and all. And I done spent a while over in them deserts. And I'll tell you, man, I don't love heat, but I like heat. I can tolerate heat way better than, you know something. Miss Bell already broke off in my daggum hand. Look at that. I twisted that bell off. I'm gonna have to put it on with a wire. Oh lordy. But what was I saying? Oh yeah, I spent a long time in that daggum desert tolerating the heat and what it takes to tolerate you know, the extreme heat of a desert, which I guess is on the opposite end of what these fellas had to deal with up in the Arctic. And of course, you know, I was back. We're as soldiers is backed by just the most modern technology, and you ain't gonna run. I mean, it's hard to run out of water and such out there. You know, you're not dealing with things like that. But I'm talking about dealing with the extremes of the temperature and all. I just couldn't have dealt. I couldn't have dealt with that cold. Ain't no way. Heck, when I showed up at Fort Knox, Kentucky in October of 1986, when I joined up with the Army, I had come down from New Orleans, Louisiana. I had been living down there for a while, a long time, and I had come up there with shorts on in October. It's still, you wore shorts till after. Heck, you still had shorts on trick or treating down there. And even in Christmas time, I've been outside or playing around anyway. It don't never snow and this and that. Anyway, I was so used to the heat and all. I showed up at Fort Knox, Kentucky in a pair of shorts and a cut-off shirt. And I'm going to tell you, it was cold. The first formation I was ever in on the outside, I said, man, what did I do? This is not, it is in, because in October in Kentucky is cold. I believe they chose Kentucky for them types of training because it was a lot similar to Germany, which of course was our main focus back then in the 80s. We was in the middle of World War III, you know, against the Russians and all. So the main focus was training was for Germany. And of course, I went over to Germany for a while, spent some time there in the Fulda Gap. And I'm gonna tell you right now, man, I'm gonna do a whole video on it one day. But that daggum game, Team Yankee, is some of the wrongest things about the units that was over. They got it wrong. I don't know who they had figure out what's the stats for these units, but they got it daggum backwards and wrong. And one day I'm gonna make a video ranting about it because, you know, the biggest unit over in the Fulda Gap in the mid 80s was a 3rd Armored Division. 3 massive brigades, and the biggest one, 1st Brigade, was the biggest brigade in the world. There's a reinforced brigade, 2 infantry battalions, 2 armored battalions, a daggum 2 artillery battalions, one of them 109, one of them 203. In 109 and 110s, I mean. But it was the biggest brigade in the world. It sat on top of a mountain down there in Germany that Hitler had cut the top off of back in World War II. It was called the Reich, Kirchgoens, Germany. And Hitler had chopped the top off that thing and made it into a daggum Luftwaffe air base. You know, where they was daggum flying ME-262s and whatnot out of there. And of course, when we took it over, after we won World War II up in there, we turned it into a big tank base. And it's the biggest tank base in the world with you talking about 120 M1A1s at that time in the mid 80s. But anyway, I was well used to dealing with a little bit of cold there. And I went up to Bergen and spent some time up in there when it was real, real cold and went on training missions. on the daggum Zug Spitz, where I took a army course for mountaineering and stuff, and I was up on the Zug Spitz for a week. That wasn't no fun. So I can't even imagine what these fellas, and like I was talking about, let me go back to this sliding. There ain't but one way that daggum mask can fit in that slot that you see me fooling with. I turned it all 4 ways and finally got to the one way that it will fit. So they, you can't really mess it up how they want you to put it. But I can't imagine what them fellas on the Erebus and the Terror was dealing with, locked in on top of that ice like that for just literally years at a time. It's unbelievable. So anyway, go watch that daggum The Terror on AMC or what, any kind of whatnot channels you get on cable. All right, the mask is in. The mask is mounted, Captain. Now it's want me to switch over to this other section called section 10 and 11. 11 looks like it's that big deck. And if that other one was the poop deck, this has got to be the quartermaster's deck or something. I don't know what you'd call it. But you know what's strange, man? I was on tanks in the Army for a long time, and I know a whole mess about tanks. And one thing about tanks is on a lot of almost everything on it is referred to in naval terms. Now the right and the left, no, they don't tell you to daggum skew the daggum turret to starboard and stuff. But just that word right there, turret, comes from ships. In the hull of the tank, that's a ship. And you got hatches on the daggum tank, that's from ship. Sponson boxes, sponsons and all, that's from ships. All these things talking about ships, except for the track, of course. Your track and your daggum road wheels, things like that. But basically, a tank is like a land ship, and all them terms come from naval terms. Because I believe that in the beginning, this is what I heard tell about tanks, that the Army didn't want nothing to do with them, thought it was just a daggum pipe dream or what, it just something just wouldn't work. They didn't want nothing to do with it. And it got passed off till the daggum Navy got a hold of it. And of course, they was going to term everything as you do with ships, hatches, sponsons, things like that. And so that's why tanks have the same thing, same terminology on a lot of it as ships. And of course, we all know the history about what happened with tanks. They went from what they was in World War I and all to what they are now. All right, I'm looking for piece number 10, which is going to be one half of that back cabin. I guess, and one thing I did find out from watching all them daggum movies, like Mutiny on the Bounty, and any of them, to tell you the truth, the captain, his quarters is in the back of the ship, right here where I'm cutting out. The very back part of the ship. That's where the captain stays. And so but another thing is so funny, man, once you find out just how small these ships actually was in real life and how many fellers that they actually put on these ships in real life in that small of a space, heck, you ain't got to do nothing but go down to even modern ships. There's a daggum battleship down in Mobile, Alabama, the USS Alabama, and I've been on that, and it's a battleship, a World War daggum 1 and 2 battleship, and it's smaller than you daggum think when you talk about battleship, and it's not that big, and when you get up inside it too, it's even smaller. Talk about cramped, man. Them suckers that get out on the water, Navy, man, we make a lot of jokes about them, and we rag on them as Army and Marine folks and stuff, just joke about Air Force, of course, and the Navy, and they're looked down to make all them homosexual jokes about sailors and seamen and whatnot, and this and that. I'm gonna tell you this, dude, you gotta have some balls to get on a hunk of wood or metal and ride out there in the middle of that daggum ocean You or crazy one or I don't know. I won't do it. Uh-uh. Uh-uh. I'll go out and fishing for a day, but I hate to even get past where I can't see the shore. If I get too far out and can't see the daggum shore, whew, yeah, that didn't sync up too well. But when I was a young kid, I'd done a lot of growing up around New Orleans and all. My father, he was into fishing big time. And don't think I didn't get drug out. Not against my will now, because I love fishing. But I got drug out every day on weekend, way offshore sometimes, a lot of times, past the old rigs to the old rigs, hunting and trolling for king mackerels and big ass fish. And I done a lot of fishing, man, way offshore. But it's just not my thing, man. That was my father's thing. And he's way more of a sailor than I would ever be, man. Like I say, I'm a day sailor. I want to take a boat out where I can still see the daggone shore. I like to catch fish and whatnot. But man, as far as sailing by compasses and actually even the art of sailing itself, man, that's just something that just ain't my thing. All right, of course, I'm cleaning mold lines off from the side of these ribs. And yes, they're there, but they're not that pronounced. As you see how quickly I'm being able to work through them. And I'm just almost done with this piece. Now, the mold lines look to wrap all the way around, and then they wrap down the middle of each rib. So you're going to have mold lines on both sides. That's just something you're dealing with plastic models. And that's just something you're dealing with, especially with these plastic models, heavy mold lines on these ones that's coming from China, especially. So it looks like I've cut out the wrong piece for the moment, for the one I need. So I'm going to have to backtrack and cut this one out. I'm going to need that other one in just a second. It's just going to save me the time of cleaning it all up. But I got to cut this one out and clean it. Alrighty. Boy, they connect them. There's a fair amount. I don't even want to count how many, man. That is in almost 20. Come back around. Snip. Snap. Snip. More snip. Dang, how many is that? That was dang near 20. Clean these mold lines out. There's a fair amount right on the top here, and these are going to be very visible. You definitely want to get a hold of these. Get them took off. Get them took off. And like I said, I'm not going to put the fish in on here. There's some fish that's molded in and attached to here. And I ain't decided, I ain't going to do it in this video as far as grinding them off or nothing like that. I don't know, because I mainly want to make this a land base. What's this land base? I mainly want to make this part of my just regular AOS scenery at times. You know, just to make up some scenery. Because all I got is a couple of howls. I got them azurite runes. I got actually a couple fish tank runes, fish tank Coliseum runes that work really good in my Sigmar. But I really don't have a whole lot of Sigmar terrain. I got that Warscry Citadel I do though. And between the Warscry Citadel, them daggum azurite runes, and then this right here, that's almost a 4x4 table's worth of terrain. It pretty much is if you want to use it like that. Because like I was saying earlier, you need to leave, unless you're playing skirmish now. With skirmish, you need more terrain. Because you get individual guys running around. And with Warhammer 40k, you need more terrain. With Age of Sigmar, which is a maneuver game, you need less terrain on the board. All right, done with that. Now I'm going to attach number 11. Oh, found me one whole side that I neglected. A whole side. in here. That's where I'm gonna get it. Okay. Set the glue in. The one thing I did see about that dadgum show, The Terror, it was a little bit like Game of Thrones, of course. They ain't afraid to kill off the main characters. Because the leader of the whole expedition, he don't make it too long. Of course, in real life, he didn't make it too long neither. So they kind of stuck with the real life on that account and didn't leave. Of course, I'm kind of glad that I didn't go and look at the historical things before I watched the show to keep my mind a little bit more open. If I think I would have been looking for things they was doing wrong, you know, maybe if I would have done it the other way around. But I wasn't. Now they're going to start talking about putting the back end of the ship here, which is this part here. Barnacles on it. I'm going to be able to try my hand for the first time at painting barnacles on something. Looking forward to that. And you got barnacles on both sides of this. Get these snipped off. I can see I'm putting the flat part up against there on the snip. There's a fair mold line around here, but I don't know if it's hidden or not. I'm going to see when I dry fit it how hidden that mold line is. But the mold line on this one runs all the way around. It's pretty pronounced. I run diagonally from there and diagonally back out. So it's not in the very middle of it. No mold line on top. Looks fairly smooth. Alright, let me dry fit. It's on the back here. Looks like it goes up under some kind of way. And it looks like that part with the indentation sticks out to catch your rudder. So it looks like that's the slot for it. Oh yeah, nice, very nice. Alright, so it looks like I need to go there, there, and the top of that. So get my glue in here. In this instance, by dry fitting, I was able to see that I'm putting glue there, touching glue there. I need glue there. And then on this piece, I need glue all the way across that smooth top that I've been talking about that's on an angle. And that's what sets the angle of this back piece, along with the slot. So I'm into the slot, into there, sets it. Now on this piece is not sliding in. You got to eyeball that it's straight. It will slide that way if you're not careful. So keeping it straight, I'm gonna turn that upside down, leave it like that. Now I'm gonna go on to the next page. Heck, that's just the center of the book. I hope we're more than halfway through. It looks like we are. Now it says put that back side of the ship up higher. Where's that part at? Over here. It's got the name of the ship, or a name on here, and of course it says Sigmar. And it's got a picture of daggum Stormcast Eternal or something, some such as a priest back here holding a shield. I kind of wish the daggum ship's name wasn't Sigmar out here, because I'm telling you, I'm calling it the Terror. And ain't no telling how many times that I'm gonna watch that the Terror. I'm gonna watch it several times, I reckon. Now there's mold lines running heavily between these things. Now that's one of the worst type of mold lines. Mold lines that run between spikes. So you gotta run up to the spike and then you gotta come up the spike to get it off. You can't just run up to the spike and just leave it, because it just leaves a curl right there at the end of the spike. Of course, once again, the mold line is halfway in the middle of this, rolling all the way around. We'll make sure I get these off fairly well because this is a focal point of the ship since it's got the name on it and whatnot. People are going to be looking a little bit closer at this when they see it. Pretty fair mold line on the end. Let me get that out. Now I'm going to go to dry fit this. Looks like it goes up high. Looks like it goes like that with the Sigma part out, of course. How low does it go? Alright. It looks like it laps over there and slots in here on the side of that column right there. So it looks like the glue is going to come down through here on that side and the back side of that. Alright. So put some glue here inside of that column. A little bit down the back, a line down through there. Alright. Line it back up. Get it in there. It's fitting very nicely. Slightly the fit of this model. I'm giving it high marks. The fit of this model so far. Hey. That old dog is starting to get warm now. The fleas is on him too hard. Don't do that, man. I'm gonna put you outside. Alright, you wanna go outside? You wanna go outside? You wanna go out? Give me that thing. Give me that thing. Go, 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 go. Alright. Alrighty. Now I'm holding that piece. It's set. Looks like it's done. Done. We're going to step 13, which is put them two halves together. Now I'm going to dry fit this one that I already cleaned up and saved myself all that time. I'm going to dry fit it together to see where I need to put my glue. This is a big connection right here. Because yep, this is a big connection. Once again, I'm right on the verge of it. It looks like one of them just pops in, and once it pops, he's in. Alrighty. What's wrong with it? There it is. Yep, once again, it's just a matter of getting it in the right alignment to let it pop in. And it will pop together. Just like that. I mean, once you got it where the hole without glue, you know you got it. So I need to take a careful look at where the dang glue line is going down. Alright, I see it. I see it, I do. There's two connections here. And then the rest is on the side. All the way down here. Somebody find a gun. Hope I ain't fire shooting at my dog. Alright. Get it back like I had it. And it will pop back together. Bingo. Okay. Got that together. And it's so tight it's going to hold itself. I can go on to the next step, lay it down. No rubber bands required or nothing on this one. It's been very enjoyable build. So on to step 14. They talking about put it on its base and then put that little number 20 up in the front of the base. So let's find the base. Lord, I can't believe it's just late at night. All right, get that cleaned off. Clear that base and mold lines. There's very little mold lines on these bases. It looks like to be running right around the edge where they're connected, and ain't hardly no flash. Looks real good. All right, number 20 is some block. This one of these other, why didn't they just mold it in? I don't know what this does you for putting it together and all. The skills you develop. Putting piece number 20. That screw's just holding a couple more fish. Like I said, that I ain't gonna put on here right now. Now, if I think the keys, I was gonna give this to a friend of mine. I'm playing Idoneth Deeepkin. Of course, before my prime, I might put them dang fish on there. I might put them on afterwards, pay them separate or whatnot. But that'd be about the only reason that I put them fish on there, because I really don't see myself at this moment gonna play the Idoneth Deeepkin. Sorry, I'm gonna play Idoneth Deeepkin or buy them, because nowadays, man, these armies, I ain't gonna lie to you, it's $800 to $1,000 to buy an army front to back for Age of Sigmar. I'm talking about competitive army, 2,000 point competitive. You're gonna spend 800 to 1,000 on the army, and then that ain't even counting that you got to paint the daggum thing. Ooh, I missed a spot. I missed a spot gluing. I didn't glue the bottom of them things. That's gonna allow that thing to rock. She begin to rock. All right, I'm gonna hold it there. This is where my daggum toothpick's gonna come in handy. Then I'm gonna put out a little bit of super glue. I'm gonna grab some on the toothpicks. A little bit less than that on the toothpick. And that's gonna allow me to get up under there where I missed, where them things join the deck. Now there's a little bit of leeway too here, because this is a ruin. You know, this thing is a ruin, a relic, and you can have a little bit of mess up on it. And there it goes. I need to rotate it down like that. I'm going to have to hold it for a minute to get it to hold. And I've come upon my first, there it is. My first out of whack part of it. It's being hard to get this to line up to where these lay on the deck and that plank hits that round part. It's the first screw up. Oh, my battery's running low. Oh, hang on. That's the first misfit. Island of Misfit Toys. That's the first misfit that I've seen. Where is this thing? Battery running low. All right, here we go. So now, where's piece 20? Piece 20 is going to connect right down here. We'll get a little glue on it. It's got a little nub, a little tab. It slots right down in there. I'll forget that side. Put that in. Now, I'm going to dry fit this real quick. Find out where the ribs go. It looks like there's a slot right there. Oh, nice. Everything slots really nice down into those grooves right there. You really can't hardly screw it up. Watch me. No, you can't. This looks like an easy slot right here. Hush, dog. Easy slot. Shh. Slots on that end too. It connects. I'm gonna go ahead and hold it up in the air. Get it slided down, down, down. There it is. Pop right in. And I'm gonna use its own weight to let it sit there and help it dry. Make sure it sits correctly. I'm gonna have to hold it. It ain't gonna wanna dry. It won't, because of the tension in that misaligned part that I'm talking about. It's not wanting to let it dry with its own weight. I'm gonna have to sit here and hold it for probably about 45 seconds to a minute. And because it's got the tension on it, I'm gonna hold it. I'm gonna hold it good. I'm gonna let this daggone dog in so he'll quit crying. Right? Yeah. Yeah, it's an old dog, about 12, 13 years old, ain't you, Jack? Oh man, huh? He's a nice little Belgian Malinois. And he has wintered up here in the house. And you're fitting the summer down there in the daggone garages and stuff, Jack, because you done wore out your welcome up here. Yo old coot. All right, I'm still holding it. I still feel a little tension for that super glue, but it ain't nothing like I would have to hold it for plastic glue. That plastic glue, I probably would have to rubber band this or tape. You know, I can use blue tape. I could use blue tape right now, which I may do. If I could lay my eyeballs on some nearby blue tape, which a lot of times I got around here. It's about ready to hold. About got it. While I'm waiting, I can take me a drink and I can look and see what's the next. And it looks like the rudder is next. So look over here, find the rudder. I'm gonna see if I can let her go without it popping. Looks like it's all right. Love super glue. All right, rudder. Cut the nibs off that rudder. Man, down in that thing show the terror. They had to have a fella dress up in one of them old timey diving suits with the big brass helmet and all that, and the big heavy shoes and all, and they lowered him down in the ice. So he had to go look because of the dang propeller. These are some of the first big propeller ships. You know, it had a big piece of ice caught in it. They lowered that fella down. He busted that ice out of there. Now in real life, this really did happen, of course. And in real life, the fellas they lowered down there, every one of them got a frostbite. You know, in this and here, the fella didn't get frostbite, but he got something else. I ain't gonna spoil it for you too much, but he got something else while he was down there. A fright. That's for dadgum sure. While he was down repairing. And of course, this boat looks a little bit older. You know, if you got a rudder looking like this, it's thrown together and planked together, planks put together with them type of things. It's an old boat. Now, on the rudder is some pretty heavy mold, pretty heavy connections and mold lines. Don't know why. Sometimes on some of the pieces, they just don't know why. But this mold line is pretty heavy and deep and running all the way around. And by deep, I mean it sticks out a good ways. All right, I got the most of it out. I'm gonna run back here to the back side of this thing. I'm gonna check and make sure that it didn't pop out. It didn't. What in Hades? Are you serious? Oh, okay. It goes down in the hole. It fits down in the slot itself and then pops in. So I see my connections. Put a little glue. I've got a little too much up at the top here. I'm gonna rake it out with this thing. Because sometimes you get too much super glue, it will craze. Because you don't want to glue it to itself. You want it to glue in something to something. You get too much, it has this craze to it. Yeah, it's gonna be locked in, and it's done showed me a bad spot that I need to cut off of here. Not that I don't think people can turn it upside down, but they may. I am holding the daggum rudder of my terror tightly to lock this thing together, and that's gonna lock the back part. And the next part's gonna be the lantern. I'm looking for the old lantern. I'm gonna cut it out. Boy, see how I multitask? Alright. I think that's gonna hold. Snip on that lantern. Nice old lantern, man. This thing looks cool. Broken glass in it. This is gonna be nice and fun to paint too. Love this thing. Daggum. A lot of heavy. The thing on these, man, you have to go heavy weathering because it's so daggum damaged. That ain't gonna work, son. That just ain't. No. No and no and no. So what I'm gonna do is this. Modification time. I'm gonna rake this one off flat. Cause it had like a little lip notch they had going on. I gotta make this flat. Now I'm gonna make an equal flat spot up on the top here where it went. So instead of that little lock piece, which wasn't gonna do a flip, man, especially when you start moving this thing around, that wasn't gonna do nothing. I'm gonna break off in 2 seconds. All right. So now what I do is I'm gonna want to start a little hole right here with the tip of that knife. Once I got that tip of that knife in that little hole, I had to make a little spin around just to get started. And then I make an equal one here in the middle of that, what I done carved out. And I spin around to just give me a little hole started. Now I come over here and take a pin vise, which is just a tiny little driller, like that. Now I'm gonna go down in top of this part. And I'm holding it pressure down like this, and then you spin this part. That's how this thing works, like this. You spinning down. All right, once I got a hole drilled in it deep enough, and I only want to go 1/8 inch deep or so. That's all it really needs. Once it's that way, I take me a little piece of this wire that I keep around here. Some people use paper clips, things like that, but I got this little piece of wire. I'm gonna cut a little piece of wire. I'm gonna cut it a little long so I can work with it without tweezers in my old band-aided hand. So I take that piece of wire, I put a little super glue on it. I jam that down in that hole. And like I said, it's only about 1/8 of an inch deep. I straighten it up there, and then I set that aside. And while that's drying, then I'll be preparing this one here, the other end. I got to drill an equal hole right down inside of here. And I do the same technique. Now you gotta be careful. You get a lot of pressure right here. You can slip off. You can go into your daggum hand. I'm doing this stuff without a net right here and making it, look like I'm not trying to be safe. I've just done this a long time, and to tell you the truth, I'm willing to take the risks and the cuts. But you do need to be careful when you're working with these knives. It looks like I'm being really flippant and throwing around things. And I have had people say the comments and things such not like that. So I do apologize for being unsafe and all. So I'm trying to do better. But I always, even though I'm running my mouth, I'm keeping my mind on this cut. That's the one thing I got from running saws and stuff most of my life, working with powered equipment saws. As you can see, I got all my daggum fingers, and I got all of them on my fingers. And that's from, man, I pay attention when the daggum saw's running, when the blade's cutting. Man, that's what you got to be paying attention to. And if you ain't, you are going to have an accident sooner or later, probably sooner. All right. Hopefully it ain't quite dried up yet. So I'm gonna leave that alone for just a second. I need that to dry a little bit more up top there before I cut it. So I'm gonna go on to the next step, which is gonna be attaching plank 23 to the bottom of that hole. Just like we attached plank 24 to the other hole, daggum 23 is on this one. So I'll go around again, cutting with the flat side out so that I don't deform my piece. I come back, I nip all the nips, all the little pieces off with my nippers. And man, you cannot spend too much on nippers. I swear to you, I think I paid $22, $23 for these. I've had them a couple of years. And man, if I can tell you this, they've been worth I don't know if I pay $100. They'll be going, oh, I paid too much. But I'm gonna tell you, they've been worth $100 to me. So if you have to pay $40, $50 for a good pair of nippers, man, I believe you're going to get your money out of it if you build these models much, because there's a difference between the good ones and the bad ones, and that's why I went and paid $23 for these instead of $5 for a set. You know, so I believe Games Workshop has a set. They ain't cheap neither. Of course, they work good. Most all Games Workshop tools, man, they don't scrimp when they contract somebody to build tools for them. You know, you might scoff at them mold line removers and the prices of a lot of this stuff, man, is high. But Games Workshop is synonymous with quality when it comes to miniature figurines. The top quality. That's why you're paying these dang high prices, because it's the best. There ain't no better fantasy models out there, plastic models, than this I got right here in my hand. There just ain't no better. And if you want the best, you're gonna have to pay a higher price, and that's why Games Workshop stuff is so daggone expensive compared to what it really is. All right, I got that piece. It wasn't nothing to it. Slap piece 23 on there like it wasn't nothing. Checking that top, it's almost dry. I had to put a big block so when it gets dry, we're gonna finish putting that lantern on real quick. We go to the last picture. And it's just showing the finishing touches and these little fishes, which is the only thing left. That's food. It goes in the garbage. I'm gonna go ahead while that's drying. All I'm gonna do is snip out my little fishes, even though I might not use them yet. Now these is very important that I'm cutting them out the right way, so because they will deform. You ain't looking at putting nothing but a couple of little daggone fins on some of them that's connected to the plastic here. That's a nice looking eel thing. You know, who knows what I might use these for if I don't use them on this. But, or who knows what the future holds about me buying daggum Idoneth Deeepkins. I'm going to have to go somewhere from Nurgle eventually, maybe by the end of the year. I'm going to get tired of them. It's bad to say, because I've been playing a lot. I mean, that's all I've been playing. Age Sigmar and Nurgle. Now this bell, I'm going to reattach in the same type of manner that I'm showing you right here with the wire. Now we done got both holes drilled. We had drilled a hole down top of this. We put that wire down in. Now I'm going to come back and I'm going to snip that wire off short. I'm going to put another little blob of super glue on there. And usually I dry fit it, but I'm gonna go ahead and tell you this hole's deep, and I know that hole it will fit. All right, I'm gonna hold it there about 10 seconds. I could have went even deeper with the wire. I cut it off a little short, but even 1/8 of an inch will hold these things on. All you want is that wire connection. See, the glue ain't even set, and the wire's holding it up. So that's the lantern on. Like I said, I'm going to connect the bell when we get off the horn here. I'm going to probably drill up that bell, throw that bell up in there to hang from there. And I really appreciate y'all watching. And I'm going to do a little outro here and show y'all the size of these things. Of course, here's your regular size wizard or whatnot, a miniature, and how big he is compared to the size of this thing. Now, you can put it together, they say. Let's see how good it goes together. When it goes together, what does it look like? Does it clip together? No. Maybe you just got to touch. I ain't really full with it yet to see how if it locks together. Because see, I done messed up part 23 that wasn't all the way dried with my fools with it. Alright. But I can't wait. I'm too impatient. Alright, so it looks like that's the way it lines. That is it. That's it. There it is, folks. The Gloomtide Shipwreck. There's the size. I ain't got no daggum Idoneth to go with it. But there's the size of her. It's about the length, almost the length of a white dwarf. A little shy. The length of a magazine. That's how long it is. Oh yeah, like I said, the daggum new white dwarf come out. On the cover, you got Idoneth. You got a battle report with Idoneth in there. Right here. So it should be a good mag. I hadn't really looked through it. Just bought it. Just got it today when I got this. Now this is together, done, and I gotta put my thinking cap on and see how I'm going to do this. If I'm going to attach any of these to here, and it looks like they most all got bases themselves. Each one of the little fish people that come with it looks like they got their own base. And I believe I'm going to paint them separate then. I'm just going to leave them all separate and paint them separately. And if I wanted to attach them to the daggum Gloomtide Shipwreck, then I'd do that. Now, it's just about 8 o'clock after here. I believe I ain't really clocked. I won't know how long it took me to put this thing together. But as y'all see, I really didn't stop. Take no much breaks and all. And throwed it together pretty rapidly. And so you can probably use that as a judge of how long it's going to take you to put it together. And add some on if you build a little slower and take a little bit more time of raking mold lines off and a little bit more careful on that. Or you can take off a little bit of the time if you don't give a daggum about the mold lines and or things like that, and you just want to get it together and on the tabletop just as about as quick as possible. So I appreciate y'all coming, and please give it a like if you can, and subscribe if you ain't done it already. And as you can see, you know, every couple of weeks I'll put out some kind of videos. I'm going up to NashCon at the beginnings of the June of next month and all. So I'm going to have some videos, I guess, from up there and of how my Nurgle army is going to do up there. So I appreciate y'all coming, and I'll see y'all on the next one.